Hello everyone, Republic Jim here. It's December 3rd, Saturday. I'm just taking advantage of this beautiful day to get out in the woods on my property a bit. I wanted to prepare a campsite and do some other testing of equipment. We've had roughly half a winter's worth of snow already since November 3rd. And it just keeps piling up, and temperatures have been way below normal for this time of year. But it was above zero this morning, and it's now up to about 21. Conditions are perfect to get out and test out my new snowshoes. I'm finding that those work really well. Without the snowshoes, any of the untrammeled areas, it's just about knee deep, but snowshoes certainly make it easier going. That area back in there in between the trees where I have some wood cut already is where I'll be setting up a campsite. I need to cut a bunch of wood for firewood. Those other ones there are poles for a sleeping platform. But the main reason that I wanted to do this video was to talk about a new tool that I got recently, which is the United Cutlery Combat Commander Gladiator sword. That's a very long-winded name for just United Cutlery's modern interpretation of a Roman gladius. And the primary reason that I decided to purchase that was as a secondary tool for personal defense, just in case I'm out in the woods and happen to have an encounter with a predator of any kind. You know, we live in an area with cougars and wolves and bear, although they should be hibernating right now, and occasional two-legged predators. And obviously there are other tools that go bang that are more effective for that particular task, but I wanted to have a backup just in case something happened. If for some inexplicable reason I was out of ammo or something happened and I didn't have a chance to get to it, wanted a tool that could be effective for up close, and I think this fits the bill. But in looking at it, I had some thoughts about the other uses for it, because I'm all about figuring out multiple uses for the gear that I carry. I carry a fair amount of weight, and if I'm going to do that, I would like to be able to get multiple uses from those items. So I had some interesting ideas on it. All I've done to it so far is I took a Dremel tool and removed the factory finish on those spots. There's still a little bit there, but cleaned it up a bit to where there's some bare metal. And then while I was at it, just ran the Dremel, the sanding cylinder, just lightly ran it down the edge of the blade just to touch it up a hair. I know that's not anywhere near optimal for sharpening a blade, but it was not especially sharp out of the box, and it could still cut branches and that sort of thing. But I wanted to touch it up just a bit. Don't know how much that will help, but we'll see. I'll get something more appropriate for sharpening at some point and touch up the blade some more, but for now it should be usable. I'm going to round up some wood and reset the camera, and then I'll get back to you with my thoughts for other uses for this particular tool. Okay, so I got a little bit of firewood rounded up. Obviously I need to cut a bunch more, but I wanted to film this while I still had a little bit of daylight left, because the sun is going behind the ridge rapidly. But as you might be able to tell from the title of the video, when I got this in my hand and got a good look at it, it occurred to me that I might be able to use it for some common bushcraft tasks and just, you know, general things out in the woods. And obviously I understand I'll never be able to use it to baton firewood. Not going to do that with a double-sided blade, but you know, it should be a good chopper for delimbing branches and that sort of thing. And I think it, with the shallow blade grind, the geometry of that, it should be fairly good at slicing. So especially once I get it sharpened up a little better, I think I might be able to feather stick okay with it, which, you know, is crazy for an 18-inch blade, but is still possible in an emergency situation. And what really caught my eye was these cutouts on either side of the base of the blade. There's just these half round deals that, as I said, I took the sanding cylinder on the Dremel and cleaned them up, took some of the factory coating off of there. But I mean, for one thing, I can hold it like that, put my thumb in there, and or even my finger on that side, choke up and get fairly close for doing any sort of fine work. But the other thing that really caught my attention is that they're roughly the same size as my 1/2-inch ferro rod, which is why I took the coating off of there, so I could try to strike sparks from the ferro rod and use that for emergency fire starting if I need to. And then one other option that I don't know if it's even possible, but the handle here has this hole running through it, and you know, it might be possible to use that as the point for a bow drill. I haven't personally done any work with the bow drill, so I don't know how realistic that is, but possibility, you know, you might be able to put the stick in there and do that. I might experiment with that sometime in the future. But anyway, the handle is surprisingly comfortable. The balance is good. Feels pretty light and quick, so I thought I would check it out with some of the tasks out in the woods. So, as I said, just barely touched up the blade. And no problem chopping smaller stuff. Yep, definitely needs the blade sharpened up a little better to be effective with larger pieces. But that being said, it did okay with the sizes I would be more likely to be working with. And then see how it does here. Yeah, still not especially slicey with just that little bit of touching up on the blade, but And it's not especially great wood for that, but just taking something, some downed wood and knocking branches off. You know, I can get some relatively fine feathers there. I'm sure with a little work I could actually get it to where the blade would bite in there better. But for no more than a little bit of touch-up that I did with a tool that's not meant for that, that's not too bad. So, and the next step will be to test out the ferro rod, but I'm going to get out, cheat a little bit here, get out some fire starter tinder stuff commercially made, just to try it out because I've never tested it before. I found an old rotting stump and ripped off some sections of bark there just to give myself a little bit of a platform, and I'm gonna stop here, get my fire starter out, get some of that there, and then give this a try with the ferro rod and see what happens. Okay, I'm ready to give this a try. Don't know how it'll work, but we'll see. All right, so makes enough of a spark to catch anyway. Doesn't throw a huge amount of sparks, but obviously enough to get the job done if you have some decent fire starter. I don't know if I could have done that with just some wet stuff or not very good tinder, but for this particular job it worked great. And what I used there is Pro Camp Tech Ultimate Fire Tinder. It's this powdery stuff. Almost looks like sawdust or something, but very interesting stuff and seems to work nicely. But anyway, the primary thing I wanted to do was just check out the United Cutlery Combat Commander Gladiator sword for doing a sort of bushcraft task. I think I could cut some decent notches and that sort of thing with it too, and with that point I could certainly do a little bit of drilling. I'd have to be careful not put too much pressure on it because it is relatively fine on the tip there. I wouldn't want to break it, but there's no doubt that I could just gently put it in there and drill stuff fairly quickly. So all in all, I think it's a pretty handy dual purpose tool, and I'm satisfied with those results. So I'm gonna just build this up a little bit more, and just to have a little bit of heat to come back to as I'm going and cutting some more wood. And I'll get my campsite ready, and then hopefully relatively soon I'll actually be doing an overnight one and doing a video of that. So meanwhile, I better get on this before the fire dies down too much. Hope you found that interesting. This has been Republic Jim. I'll talk to you later.